If you're hosting an event, whether it's online or in person, making sure that your attendees feel connected and leave feeling connected and known is really important. I recently had an interview with Phil Mershon, who is an expert in creating incredible event experiences. And we talked about just that in one segment. So I wanted to pull it out as a highlight here for you so that you can hear how to create really great connection for your event attendees.
Are there any other key elements around the event that help with that connection, community, culture building?
I use a group of people called networking ambassadors who, in Malcolm Gladwell's terms, are super connectors. They're really good at meeting someone and immediately thinking about, Shanna, I just met Joe over here. You guys would really enjoy talking to each other for this reason. Would you mind if I introduce you? And so they're constantly making introductions and they love doing it. Like they feed off of it. So having people in the community, they're already there. You already have people like this, but I like to find them and empower them to do that for the life of the event. So that would be one thing that really does increase the chance for communities if you've got people that are connecting people on purpose. Another is if you've got multiple rooms, and even if it's just one room, but empower your MCs to use part of their stage time to get people meeting each other. So if you've got multiple stages and there's a room that's talking about Instagram marketing, I'm going to use our event for an example. There's a good likelihood everybody in that room is interested in learning about Instagram marketing and wants to talk to others in it about it, right? So wouldn't it be a tragedy if 400 people were sitting in a room with other people just like them that want to learn about this and they never talk to each other? So before the session ever starts, I encourage the MCs to get people talking, to break the room down, let them see other people and some of the things that they're interested in, and encourage those conversations. Because if you're in the right room and you turn to someone on your right and left and meet them, the likelihood is they might be someone you want to talk with. Another thing that I've learned more recently is when you've got an event that's established, you've always got this turnover and you've got people who are coming for the first time. So, what does that first timers experience look like? And how do you help them feel quickly integrated and connected and not feel like, there's this clique that's happening at the event? The alumni love it, but the newcomer feels like an outsider. How do you make the newcomer feel like they're an insider almost immediately? And thinking through that process, and that's part of the customer journey. So I'm thinking through not only just their first arrival experience, I'm thinking about their session experiences, I'm thinking about the peak experiences, I'm looking at what's it like at the end of the event. The event is over. How do we have a send off that feels celebratory and like this community? It didn't just stop, it's going to continue on.
I love the idea of the ambassadors, and we talk about this a lot inside of our online communities where I tell people identifying the natural leaders, the natural connectors in your community, and you don't even have to give them official title, but you just reach out to them and say, hey, I've noticed that you're a really amazing connector. You're really great at noticing when people need to meet each other. Do you think that at this upcoming event that you could just have a keen eye for that and just try to meet people and try to help them feel more connected? Would that be something you're open to without even having something official? Now, if you can make something official, great. But just that simple request can make such a difference when we're talking about what you mentioned in the second part, which is alumni. People who have been in the group for a long time tend to congregate together, and whether they recognize they're doing it or not, many of them, it can feel like a clique. It can feel like insiders and outsiders, and it can be hard to get into that. Now, not recently, but beginning of the year in January, I spoke in an event, and there was a VIP and all that kind of stuff. And there was a lot of alumni. Now, one connector there made friends with me, introduced me to everybody. And as a speaker, you kind of have that advantage. People want to meet you. But I kept thinking how cliquish the whole thing felt. There were these secret invites going out to, mastermind gatherings at other hotels afterwards. And all this kind of secret stuff was happening. And I just kept thinking how, as a new person to the event, if you weren't a speaker, if you didn't have that credibility of being a speaker, how you would leave feeling pretty disconnected, right? Because you have a whole bunch of newbies kind of wandering around together. So I love the idea of having these connector ambassadors, really encouraging your alumni to help new people feel welcome in the group, which is something we always do inside of our online communities as well. And then the thought of how the MC is able to support in making connections happen, because oftentimes we think of MCs as your hype person, right? Their job is to make the speaker look really, really good, and their job is to keep the energy up in between speakers. But if you give them that third task of, hey, and we want people to get to know each other, and we want to make sure that every session, so usually you have session blocks, right? You have your morning block and then your lunch break and then your afternoon block or whatever, that every session block we're doing something so that they are meeting and connecting with the people around them in a meaningful way. That can make all the difference. And I find that I've been in events before where people do this, but they don't do it till like day 2 afternoon or something. And then what happens is your lunch on day 1 is a solo lunch, which feels so isolating in a room of hundreds or thousands of people. So if we can do something like that to where nobody is eating lunch alone unless it's simply by choice on day 1, I feel like that alone is such a difference maker.
I totally agree. It is a hard thing for an MC to understand that third task. We'll use your term, because if they are historically known as a hype person and they're really good at that, and they say, "Hey, my job is to connect with the audience, me to the audience, and to build up the speaker." Those are their two jobs that they see. Asking them to do the third thing is a paradigm shift. And I said it to some MCs one time, and almost none of them did it. So I asked them afterwards if they heard me say it, and they said, "No, I didn't." So I realized I've got to figure out a different way to communicate that's desired, not just accepted. And so they were all like, "Oh, I didn't know I could do that. I would love to do that." It's like, "Oh, okay." Because I was literally about to say, "You know what? You're not invited back next year." Then I realized, oh, there's a breakdown in communication here, and this isn't normal. It's not normal. And it can be done poorly. No one likes to turn to their neighbor with awkward questions. So how do you set that up so that it's like, "Hey, the people in this room are pretty amazing. Here's what I know. Half the people in this room have been doing social media marketing for at least 5 to 7 years. And there's a lot of expertise and wisdom, not just the people coming on stage, but sitting right next to you. So if your odds are that either the person on your right or left knows a lot, would you be willing to meet them?" All of a sudden you realize actually everyone here has something to offer, even the brand new person. And I think they can set that tone, but it is a new skill that some of them have to learn. Some of them are more awkward in doing it, so they have to be coached. Professional MCs, though, they get it and they are able to quickly enter into that.